Good morning. All right, kids, you are not going to come down front today because we're going to stay here and do this together this morning. We've got some exciting stuff planned at the end of service. I just want to reiterate, after our prayer, which would normally be your cue to go, please don't go. Please stay, because we're going to talk about these dresses, all the work that went into them, and the little children that they're going to bless on the other side of the world as we get ready to send those off. And so our young ladies are going to help us tell that story. So please stick around for that. For the young men that helped serve us in our worship this morning, thank you guys for your willingness to do that. And as always, please take a minute to encourage them afterwards today if you would. I know it means a lot. I'm going to tell a couple different stories this morning. And the first story is one about me. I was born in 1979. Which means that I got to experience that magical time called the 80s as a child. Some of you experienced the 80s as an adult. I don't know what it was like as an adult, but as a kid, it was amazing. We rode our bikes everywhere. Back then, you had to pedal bikes. It was crazy. The movies were awesome. The music was amazing. If you don't believe me, go ask whatever music player you listen to play 80s hits today, and you will jam out the rest of the day. Music was awesome. Cell phones hadn't ruined the world yet. It was really an awesome time to be alive. But for a little boy growing up in the 80s, the reason the 80s were the best decade ever is because the greatest toys in the history of the world existed in the 80s. There was the trifecta of toys that took over every young boy's world in the 80s. And if you were growing up in the 80s like me, little guys, you can know what I'm talking about. Okay, so first of all, who's this guy? He-Man. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. You'll have to ask Josh and Jess about the role he played in their wedding after service today. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. With hair like that, you have to be strong. This guy was awesome. And with the cartoon came toys. And the coolest toy in the He-Man universe was the Castle of Grayskull. My cousin had that. If you had that, you were the coolest kid in the world. He-Man's so cool, he's making a comeback. I think it's this coming weekend that the movie opens at theaters. And I, as a 46-year-old grown-up, am not going to go see that movie. Second, what do we got here? Transformers Optimus Prime. I remember when the Transformer movie came out in like 2007, I think it was. First thing that happens is Optimus voices Prime starts narrating on the screen, and I was like a child all over again. Transformers were awesome. Greatest toy in the Transformers was the original Optimus Prime, the big heavy metal semi-trailer. If you had that, you were the coolest kid in the world. And then number 3, you guys ready for this? G.I. Joe. A real American hero. Oh, the cartoon was awesome and the toys were amazing. And for us, this was my favorite toy because He-Man and Transformers, especially Transformers, got pretty expensive. But you could get G.I. Joe dolls for like $2.87. I can still close my eyes and see the price tag on them at Walmart because we would go to Walmart in town and spend hours staring at the G.I. Joes. This was our childhood. And if you think that's weird, it is. But we grew up 10 miles out of town, and so if we got to go to Walmart for the day, that was the coolest thing ever. G.I. Joe. Now these toys, there was one that out of all the toys you could have, this was the coolest toy you could have. It's that guy right at the front there in the all-dark ninja costume. His name was Snake Eyes. And Snake Eyes was the coolest. This is what the original Snake Eyes toy look like. It's just a simple little guy with some kind of weaponry, but you couldn't find him. Every time I got to go to Walmart, I would pull every G.I. Joe off the shelf looking for Snake Eyes. Never, ever found him. He was this elusive character my entire youth. But my best friend who lived next door, he had Snake Eyes. By the way, I looked this up to find what the original packaging looked in. This is an eBay listing as of yesterday. You want to know how much Snake Eyes is going for? $13,500. I kind of wish I wouldn't have shot all my G.I. Joes with BB guns when I was a kid. $13,500. Okay, so my friend next door had this toy. And I did everything I could to convince him to trade with me. I will give you every toy in my collection, just trade with me. And he wouldn't do it. Finally, we came to an agreement because I got some other G.I. Joes that he really wanted. Came to an agreement that we would just swap for one day. And I could just have Snake Eyes in my possession for one night. But then when it came time to make the deal, I got cold feet and I backed out. Because this is what I realized. I realized that I wasn't willing to give him my toys in return. And it all came down to what Tyler was talking about at the Lord's Supper this morning. It came down to a question of trust. I love my buddy. He's my best friend in the world. I just decided I didn't trust him enough with the toys that meant the most to me. You have to really trust someone to give them the thing that means the most to you in the world, right? Eventually you grow up and you realize that toys are not the most important thing in the world. And that leads us to our second story. If you are blessed to become a parent in this life, then you realize instantly what the most important thing you will ever have in your life is. It's your children. And in 1 Samuel chapter 1, we're introduced to a child that would go on to become very important in the narrative of what God did through his covenant people, the prophet Samuel. He would bridge the gap between the judges and the kings. He would be the one that would anoint Saul as first king over Israel. He would be the one that would pronounce God's judgment on Saul because of his disobedience and take the kingship away from him. He would be the one that would anoint David. Very important character in the history of God's people. But as we're introduced to how it was that he came to this earth, we're introduced not to him first, but to his mother. And this woman who was unable to have children. And she's so distraught by this reality that she does the only thing God's people know how to do, which is she goes to God in prayer. And as she's praying, the priest sees her, and at first, what did we read? He rebukes her. He thinks she's drunk because he just sees her lips moving, but he doesn't hear the words coming out of her mouth. And she explains to him what's going on, and so he says, well, may God grant you what you're asking. And she goes home, and her husband knows her, and God does indeed grant her request to have a child. That's not the most remarkable part of the story, actually. The most remarkable part of the story is the part that as a parent gives me grief. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around because what she did is she told God that if you grant me this child, I will in turn give the child back to you. And don't misunderstand what's happening here. This isn't Hannah like making a bargain with God as a way to tempt God into giving her what she wanted. This is an act of faith. That she said, if you will grant me this, I will give back to you what is actually yours to begin with. And as we read the closing of this section in 1 Samuel chapter 1, after he was weaned, she took the boy with her, young as he was, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, a skin of wine, and she brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh. And when the bull had been sacrificed, they brought the boy to Eli. And she said to him, pardon me, my Lord. As surely as you live, I am the woman who stood here beside you praying to the Lord. I prayed for this child, and the Lord has granted me what I asked of him. So now I give him to the Lord. Can you wrap your mind around this as a parent, honestly? Handing your child over to someone else at a young age. Now I know there are times as a parent when you're thinking, if I could just drop my kids off at church and let them raise them, that would be awesome. But that's not what Hannah's doing here. She's not offloading her responsibility as a parent. She's making a great sacrifice. And if you read on, you realize that Eli and his sons, these are not the kind of people you actually want raising your child. She's not entrusting him to the care of Eli. She's entrusting him to the care of God. And she says, I give him to the Lord. For his whole life he will be given over to the Lord. And he worshiped the Lord there. Some translations actually have her saying, so now I lend him to the Lord. There's a play on words going on in the Hebrew here, but the word lend gives us a different idea entirely, doesn't it? It's the idea, I'm going to let you borrow something, but it's really mine, and I want you to give it back to me when you're done with it, right? That's not what Hannah is getting across here. This isn't a matter of ownership. This is a matter of stewardship. And this is tough for us to come to terms with as parents. We talked about stewardship in Ken's class, us guys, this morning, talking about being stewards of our body. That's a difficult thing to come to terms with. This is not my own. This is a temple of the Holy Spirit within me, and this belongs to God. And so Paul encourages us in 1 Corinthians to honor God even with our bodies. That's really hard to wrap our minds around, because if anything truly belongs to me, it's what? It's my body, right? I get to do what I want with my body. So the idea that I'm just a steward of this flesh and it actually belongs to my Creator, that's difficult to come to terms with. There's other things in our life that are difficult to understand what stewardship looks like. For example, our finances. I work hard for this money. This money belongs to me. I own it. I get to determine what to do with it. And we have this idea that when we give to the Lord, we're just letting go of a little part of what really belongs to us, instead of doing what? Giving back to Him what came from Him and what belongs to Him. This is what stewardship is all about. And one of the biggest struggles as parents is a lesson that we eventually have to learn, that Hannah learned early on, which is that our children do not belong to us. We do not claim ownership over our children. God does not give us our children so that we can possess them forever. One of the cruel things about parenting is that if you do it right, what happens eventually? Your kids leave. That's what we want for them. We want them to be successful adults, right? And think of all the sacrifices you've made in your life so that your children might be successful one day. And yet for Hannah, what meant most to her was that her child would be faithful one day. And she recognized that she was a steward of this gift that God had given her, this little life, this precious child. And so when she turns him back over to God, it's the greatest sacrifice that she would ever make. And for her to be able to do that, think of the immense trust she must have had in God in that moment. And here, parents, is what I would like for you to think about this morning. In all my years of ministry, I've seen a lot of young people grow up in the church. Some of them leave home and they go on to be faithful servants of their God. Some of them leave home and they leave their faith behind. And people wrestle with why that is. And I got a lot of thoughts about that. But instead of giving you a how-to list of things to do to raise faithful children, instead I just want to present you with a question this morning. Parents, if your children are still at home, what would it look like if you turned your children over to the Lord? What kind of changes would you make in your life? We don't have a temple to drop them off at, and I'm not saying what would it look like to give them to someone else to raise. I'm saying if you made it your priority that your children, above all else, would grow up to be servants of their God, what would that look like? Do you trust God enough to give your children over to Him? That's the question I'd like for you to wrestle with this morning. And with that, the lesson is yours.
Let us free by the truth you now bring us. Shine on me. Shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze. Set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow. Flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. Lord, come to your hearts and presence from the shadows into your radiance. By the blood of enter your brightness. Search me, try me, consume all my darkness. Shine on me. Shine on me. Shine, Jesus, shine. Fill this land with the Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. Shine, Jesus, shine, fill this land with the Father's glory. Blaze, Spirit, blaze, set our hearts on fire. Flow, river, flow, flood the nations with grace and mercy. Send forth your word, Lord, and let there be light. Send